Picture this. You're watching live television when suddenly Donald Trump looks straight into the camera and drops a bombshell that makes the entire country gasp. He's just accused Barack Obama of faking his Harvard law degree on national TV in front of millions. The studio falls silent. America holds its breath. And then Obama responds with 4 words that don't just defend his name. They flip the entire room and leave Trump looking completely rattled. What you're about to hear is a story of the most devastating political takedown in modern television history. A moment where composure crushed chaos, where facts demolished fiction, and where one man's attempt to humiliate another backfired so spectacularly that it became a masterclass in leadership itself. Trust me when I say this. By the end of the story, you'll never look at political confrontations the same way again. Because this isn't just about 2 men arguing. This is about the moment America remembered what real strength looks like. The stage lights are blinding. The crowd is restless. Every camera in the room seems to be waiting for blood. It's prime time on American News Network, and the tension you can cut with a knife. Donald Trump sits at the moderator's desk, that familiar smirk spreading across his face. The one he always wears when he thinks he's about to land a killer punchline. He leans into his microphone, pauses for dramatic effect, and delivers a line that's about to ignite a firestorm. Your degree is fake, Barack. Everyone knows it. The words hit the studio like a physical slap. Gasps ripple through the audience. Some people burst into nervous laughter. Others sit frozen, unsure if they've just witnessed a casual jab or the opening shot of something much bigger. For those few seconds, the only sound is the electronic hum of microphones feeding into millions of living rooms across America. In Phoenix, Arizona, families lean forward on their couches. In Des Moines, Iowa, people stop mid-bite at their dinner tables. Everyone's thinking the same thing. Did he really just say that? Did Trump really just accuse a former president of having a fake degree from Harvard? The moderator, Allison Drake, tries to keep her composure, but you can see the shock in her eyes. She glances at her notes, knowing full well that this moment has just thrown her entire script out the window. Trump has lit the match. Now the whole field is about to catch fire. President Obama is joining us live from Chicago. Drake announces, her voice steady but strained. Mr. Obama, do you care to respond? And just like that, every eye in America shifts to the large screen behind her. There's Obama, sitting in a modest office with bookshelves neatly arranged behind him. But here's the thing that immediately grabs your attention. He's not rattled. He's not shifting uncomfortably in his seat. He's not frantically preparing a defense. Instead, he leans back with this soft, knowing smile, as if he's been waiting his entire life for exactly this moment. The contrast couldn't be more striking. Trump radiating aggression, supporters nodding and murmuring approval in the studio. Obama exuding this calm that seems almost supernatural. You can feel the tension through your screen. America is watching, and everyone's asking the same question. What is Obama going to do? In the studio audience, a young college student named Brian Keller whispers to his friend, this is either going to be a disaster or history. Those words capture what millions are thinking. This isn't just another political spat. This feels different. This feels dangerous. But Obama doesn't rush. He lets the silence stretch. He lets Trump's accusation hang in the air like smoke. Then he does something that changes everything. He chuckles. Not a bitter laugh, not a defensive snort, but this quiet, almost disarming sound that cuts through Trump's bluster like a blade. Allison, Obama begins, turning toward the moderator, but keeping his gaze absolutely steady. It's interesting to hear someone question credentials when the real question is, what have we actually done for people? What have we built? What have we taught? Who have we lifted up? The audience murmurs. You can feel the shift beginning. Trump shifts in his seat, tapping his fingers on the desk, waiting for Obama to stumble, to get defensive, to take the bait. But Obama doesn't take the bait. Instead, he does something brilliant. He flips the spotlight. I've spent years in classrooms, Obama continues, teaching young men and women about constitutional law. Some of them are now leaders in their own right. Judge Linda Carver, for example, who's presiding over cases in Cincinnati, and Daniel Brooks, who's fighting for civil rights in Detroit. The audience is leaning in now. This isn't going the way Trump expected. If my degree was fake, Obama says, his voice carrying this perfect mixture of calm and steel, then I guess they just hallucinated every lecture, every late-night review session, every challenge I gave them in class. Laughter ripples through the studio, followed by applause. And you can see it happening. Trump's smirk is thinning. His confidence is cracking. Obama isn't playing defense. He's playing chess. And Trump just realized he brought checkers to the game. The truth doesn't need to shout. Obama continues, leaning back even further, his voice calm but pointed. It doesn't need to insult. It just stand there, and eventually people see it for what it is. The applause is louder now. People are standing. And millions of viewers across the country aren't just hearing words. They're watching two completely different approaches to power collide in real time. One man leaning on mockery and insults, the other standing on substance and facts. But here's the thing, this is just the opening round. What comes next is going to push this confrontation to the absolute edge and spill into every living room in America. The studio buzzes with electric tension. You can feel it through the screen, the moment when a planned political discussion transforms into something raw and unpredictable. Obama sits thousands of miles away in Chicago, hands folded neatly on his desk, looking like he's having a casual conversation rather than defending himself against a national attack. Trump can't let it go. He tilts his head, that smirk returning as he dismisses Obama's words as rehearsed political speak. But there's something different about how Obama delivered those words. Slower, more deliberate, like each syllable was chosen to cut through the noise with surgical precision. In a small diner in Toledo, Ohio, every patron is glued to the TV mounted above the counter. Forks pause midway to mouths. Coffee cups sit untouched. An older man in a worn baseball cap mutters to his neighbor. He doesn't even look shaken. Look at him. He's turning this right back on Trump. Trump leans forward, trying to regain control. Come on, Barack. Don't dodge the question. Was your degree real or not? Everyone's been talking about it. And that's when Obama smiles, not defensively, but almost playfully, like a teacher who's about to use a student's question to illustrate a much larger point. Donald, the degree was very real. Harvard doesn't hand those out as party favors. The audience chuckles. But let's set that aside because the bigger issue isn't whether I studied law. It's whether I applied it. And I did for years in classrooms in communities with people who needed someone to stand up for them. The moderator visibly relaxes, grateful to see the conversation steering back toward substance. But Trump is restless now, bouncing his knee beneath the table, his body language screaming frustration. Then Obama leans closer to his camera, lowering his voice slightly, a technique that forces everyone to lean in and listen more carefully. You know, Donald, when I was teaching at the University of Chicago, my students weren't thinking about whether my diploma had gold letters on it. They were thinking about whether I could challenge them, push them to think differently, to see the Constitution not as a relic, but as a living document. That's what mattered to them. In the studio audience, Janice Hollowell, a retired school principal from Dayton, leans forward and whispers, "That's how you answer question, with facts, not anger." But Trump can't resist escalating. "Facts," he scoffs, raising his hands dramatically. "Come on, Barack. You had everything handed to you. Everybody knows it. Nothing about your story is real." The audience groans. Some clap in agreement, but others wince visibly. The divide in the room mirrors the divide watching at home. Obama doesn't flinch. He lets the insult hang in the air, then responds with that measured calm that's becoming his signature of the evening. "If it were all handed to me, Donald, I wouldn't have been working my way through student loans well into my 40s. That's a reality a lot of Americans know, and it's why education matters so deeply. Because it's not about where you start. It's about how far you can go when given a chance." The applause breaks out again, louder this time. Trump shifts uncomfortably, and the dynamic becomes crystal clear to everyone watching. One man is escalating, getting louder, more aggressive. The other is disarming every attack with quiet precision. Meanwhile, social media is already exploding. In Austin, Texas, college students are gathered around their phones, replaying clips within seconds of them airing. A post on Twitter reads, Obama just dismantled Trump without raising his voice. This is wild. Another, degree or no degree, this is how a president should carry himself. Back in the studio, Allison Drake senses the energy shifting. She tries to interject. Gentlemen, let's remember this is a forum about policy as much as personality, but her words are barely heard. The crowd is too busy reacting to Obama's composure. Obama gives a small nod toward the camera. At the end of the day, people don't want someone screaming at them. They want someone who listens, who respects their intelligence, and who shows them that facts and history matter. That's what I've always tried to do. The audience erupts again, even louder than before. Trump crosses his arms, his jaw set tight, muttering something under his breath that the microphones don't quite catch. In homes from Tampa, Florida to Portland, Oregon, families are debating what they're witnessing. Some side with Trump's directness. Others admire Obama's composure. But there's no denying one thing. Obama entered this arena with calm precision, and his presence is changing the temperature of the entire room. But the real turning point, the moment that's going to make this night absolutely unforgettable, that's still coming. And it's going to hit harder than anyone expects. The tension feels suffocating now. Trump is shifting constantly in his chair, his impatience spilling out in sharp gestures and clipped phrases. Obama remains steady on screen, his body language radiating the exact opposite energy. Complete control. All right, Barack. Trump says, waving his hand dismissively, you keep talking about teaching, but we've never even seen your transcripts. We don't know how you even got into Harvard. Maybe you didn't belong there at all. Gasps echo through the studio. This isn't just another political jab. Trump just crossed into deeply personal territory. Allison Drake opens her mouth to intervene, then hesitates, realizing she's witnessing something that's about to make television history. Obama doesn't react immediately. He lets Trump's words hang in the air, giving them space to reveal their own ugliness. Then, almost casually, he folds his hands and looks directly into the camera. You know, Donald, I remember teaching a young woman in my constitutional law class. Her name was Linda Carver. Bright, sharp, the kind of student who asked questions that made the whole class sit up straighter. She told me once that those classes shaped how she saw justice. Today, she's Judge Carver, serving in Cincinnati. The audience murmurs, followed by scattered applause. A woman in the front row is smiling and nodding, as if to say, that's exactly how you handle this. Obama continues without raising his voice even slightly. If my degree was fake, then she must have imagined every lecture she sat through. He pauses, letting that sink in, then continues. And then there was Daniel Brooks. Came from Detroit, first in his family to graduate college. He told me once that studying constitutional law made him realize he wanted to fight for people who didn't have a voice. Today, he's a civil rights attorney, working cases that protect people who can't afford to defend themselves. If my degree was fake, then he must have dreamed those long nights of case studies, the debates we had, the moments he challenged me right back in class. The room erupts into sustained applause. Even people watching at home feel the shift. In a small bar in Pittsburgh, patrons break into cheers, raising their glasses. That's the Obama I remember. One man says, measured, sharp, unshaken. Trump's smirk is completely gone now. He leans forward, raising his voice to reclaim control. Oh, please, you're just throwing names around. Nobody even knows these people. They could be made up. And then, as is scripted by destiny itself, Allison Drake speaks up. Actually, Mr. Trump, Judge Linda Carver was confirmed to a federal bench in 2018, and attorney Daniel Brooks has been active in civil rights cases in Michigan for over a decade. They're both very real, and both have publicly credited President Obama as one of their most influential mentors. The audience explodes into applause. Trump blinks, momentarily caught completely off guard. His hand tightens around the microphone, and he forces a laugh, trying to mask what everyone can see as a significant stumble. Obama tilts his head slightly, the faintest trace of amusement in his voice. So, maybe we should be careful before dismissing the hard work of students who've gone on to dedicate their lives to service. Because when you undermine me, you're not really insulting me. You're insulting them. And everyone who's fought for an education despite the odds. In that moment, the contrast becomes undeniable. Trump's attack was about tearing down. Obama's response is about building up. It's not just personal defense. It's an appeal to every person who's ever stayed up late studying, every parent who worked double shift to send their kid to college, every teacher who stayed after hours to help a struggling student. A factory worker from Indiana, sitting in the audience, leans forward with his arms crossed. He wasn't a fan of either man coming in, but as he watches, he mutters, "That hits home. My daughter's in law school right now. I know how much she's sacrificed. That's real." Trump, unwilling to concede even an inch, jabs a finger in the air. "You're just good at stories, Barack. That's all you've ever had. Stories. But stories don't prove anything." Obama lets those words hang for a moment before delivering his response. "Stories are proof, Donald. They're proof of lives changed. Proof of work done. That's what leadership is. Not insults, not attacks, but showing that what you've done has meaning." Applause thunders through the studio. Even some people who came in supporting Trump are looking uncertain now. Outside the studio, the exchange is cutting deep into the national conversation. In Phoenix, college freshmen are streaming the town hall while scrolling social media. One reads aloud, "Check this. Hashtag degree of truth is already trending at number 2. Another chimes in, "And Judge Carver just tweeted confirming everything Obama said, with actual pictures from a classroom." It's no longer just an argument. It's evidence, real and undeniable, stacking up in real time. But as Obama gains momentum, Trump isn't ready to back down. He's about to double down on his attacks in a way that pushes his confrontation into even more dangerous territory. The studio has transformed into something beyond a typical political debate. It's become a stage for two legacies clashing in real time, and every person watching can feel the weight of the moment. Cameras pan slowly across the audience, capturing the mixture of emotions written across faces. Some leaning forward, clapping at Obama's measured responses, others folding their arms tighter, muttering as Trump tries to regain control. In the fourth row, Anita Reynolds, a 52-year-old nurse from Akron, Ohio, presses a hand against her mouth. She came expecting political theater, but not this level of personal attack. She whispers to the man beside her, "I didn't think he'd go that far," accusing him of faking Harvard. That's dangerous territory. Her words echo what millions at home are thinking. This isn't normal political sparring anymore. Trump isn't finished. He leans forward, his voice carrying a sharper edge than before. "Barack, you're smooth with words. I'll give you that. But everyone knows Harvard gave you special treatment. They bent the rules because they wanted you there for other reasons. You're the biggest fraud this country's ever seen." The room doesn't erupt in laughter this time. It gasps. Even Trump's own supporters hesitate. Some clap weakly, but others look at each other uncomfortably, as though unsure if this is a fight they want to cheer. Allison Drake raises her hand, trying to regain control. "Mr. Trump, please," she begins, but her voice is drowned out by the murmur of the audience. Obama doesn't flinch. He doesn't even shift in his seat. He simply tilts his head slightly, takes a deliberate breath, and responds in a tone so calm it makes Trump's accusation sound small and desperate. "Donald, the funny thing about education is it doesn't disappear just because someone doesn't believe in it. I studied. I earned my degree. I taught. And the evidence of that is sitting on benches and in courtrooms across this country right now." The applause is immediate and thunderous. Several people in the audience stand to clap, breaking the tension with sudden, powerful energy. The cameras catch Trump's face tightening, his trademark smirk giving way to visible irritation. In a living room in Cleveland, a family of 5 sits glued to their television. The father, construction worker Richard Lopez, shakes his head. "You don't have to like Obama's politics, but come on, that's crossing the line. If you're going to attack someone's education, you better have proof." His teenage son, sitting cross-legged on the floor, chimes in, "He's so calm under pressure, though. Like, nothing rattles him." Back in the studio, the energy reaches a breaking point when a college student in the audience can't hold back. Show us your transcripts then, a man shouts toward Trump. Gasps follow, but the call is met with scattered cheers. Trump's face flushes red, his grip tightening around the microphone. This isn't about me, he barks. This is about him, the fraud sitting in Chicago pretending he's some kind of scholar. Obama smiles faintly, letting the insult roll past him like water off a duck's back. You know, Donald, I've always believed leadership isn't about tearing people down. It's about lifting them up. I've spent my career teaching, mentoring, and helping others grow. That's not fraud, that's service. The crowd erupts again, many now openly siding with Obama. Drake glances nervously at the producers offstage, but they're not stopping this. They know they're witnessing the kind of television that will replay for decades. While the room buzzes with tension, the outside world is catching fire. In Columbus, students at watch parties erupt into cheers. Across the country in Sacramento, diners at restaurants break into applause when the replay airs on big screens. Social media isn't just reacting anymore. It's boiling over. Hashtags are stacking up by the minute. Hashtag Obama mic drop. Hashtag degree of truth. Hashtag class versus chaos. Trump slams his hand on the table, the sound echoing through the studio. You can't just keep hiding behind nice words, Barack. People are tired of your act. They want someone real. Obama, still perfectly calm, gives a short laugh that somehow manages to be both dismissive and kind. Well, Donald, maybe being real means respecting facts. Maybe being real means showing young people that truth matters more than the loudest insult in the room. That line hits like a lightning bolt. The audience shoots up with applause, louder and longer than anything so far. Even people who came in neutral are now clearly leaning toward Obama. For viewers at home, it's becoming crystal clear that this isn't just about one man's degree. It's about credibility, about leadership, about how you handle pressure when the whole world is watching. Trump sits back, visibly frustrated, shaking his head. Obama leans back too, but with a calm smile, like someone who knows he just landed a blow that will echo far beyond the studio. But if the room is already electrified, the storm waiting online is about to make this night absolutely unforgettable. Even before Alice and Drake can transition to the next question, phones are glowing throughout the studio. Dozens of people have their heads bent over screens, thumbs racing to capture the moment in real time. This isn't just a political exchange anymore, it's content, and it's spreading at lightning speed. On Twitter, a user from Detroit posts a 20-second clip of Obama mentioning Judge Carver and Attorney Brooks, captioned simply, Trump said fake degree, Obama said students turn judges. Checkmate. Within 10 minutes, the clip has over 40,000 shares. In a cramped apartment in Phoenix, 3 college roommates stream the town hall on their laptop while scrolling their feeds. One of them, Tanya Briggs, laughs as she reads aloud. Listen to this. Hashtag degree of truth is trending at number 2 already, right under hashtag Obama mic drop. Her roommate throws her head back laughing. That man doesn't even have to yell. He just destroys with calm. Meanwhile, on TikTok, a remix of Obama's Maybe Being Real Means Respecting Facts line explodes across the platform. Users stitch the clip with reactions, memes, even dance edits. A teenager in Orlando records herself holding up a textbook while mouthing the words, captioned, when your teacher's cooler than the ex-president trying to roast him. That single video racks up 1.2 million views in less than an hour. The ripple effect isn't confined to younger audiences. On Facebook, parents and grandparents are sharing clips too. Susan Dalton, a 64-year-old retiree in Kansas City, writes, I didn't agree with everything Obama did, but the way he handled that attack tonight was pure class. That's leadership. Dozens of her friends chime in, debating, praising, and arguing fiercely in the comments. Cable networks cut into scheduled programming to replay the moment. CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, all scrambling to analyze what they're witnessing. On MSNBC, commentator Rachel Fenwick remarks, the contrast couldn't be clearer. Trump yells, Obama teaches. Over on Fox, conservative host Peter Lang tries to spin it. Obama's rehearsed, Trump's authentic. But even as he speaks, split-screen graphics showing trending hashtag betray, which clips are actually resonating with the public. Inside the studio, Obama seems aware of the digital firestorm. When applause drowns out Trump's attempt to speak, Obama gives a subtle half-smile, glancing down as though he knows millions are reacting not just in the room, but everywhere. Trump's campaign staff is frantically tweeting counterpoints, calling Obama's comments scripted and phony. But the hashtags aren't leaning in his favor. Hashtag Obama mic drop carries a triumphant tone. Hashtag class versus chaos compares the men side by side in memes. And hashtag degree of truth has turned into a thread where users post their own graduation photos, tagging mentors who shaped their lives. What started as an insult is morphing into a celebration of education itself. In Dallas, at a local sports bar, the TV replays Obama's rebuttal. A group of middle-aged men who had been watching football turn to catch the highlights. One of them, Ronald Beckett, shakes his head. Man, you don't have to like his politics. But that was smooth. Trump walked right into that one. Meanwhile, in classrooms preparing for the next day, teachers are already pulling up clips. At Lincoln High in Omaha, government teacher Mr. Hargrove plans to replay Obama's calm rebuttal for his students. Notice what he did here. He'll explain. He didn't shout back. He didn't dodge. He used real examples. That's rhetoric with actual weight. Back on American News Network, Allison Drake finally regains control of the stage. She raises her voice over the roar of applause and chatter. Ladies and gentlemen, I think it's fair to say this discussion has already sparked a national conversation. The crowd laughs nervously, some clapping again. Trump crosses his arms, visibly irritated by the moderator's remark, while Obama simply adjusts his tie on screen. The picture of composure. Behind the scenes, producers are practically giddy. Ratings have spiked in real time, with Nielsen estimates predicting record-breaking viewership. This clip's going to replay for weeks, one producer whispers backstage. Another replies, forget weeks. This is tomorrow's headline everywhere. By midnight, every major news outlet pushes notifications. Obama fires back at Trump during live town hall. The story isn't just political news. It's cultural currency, passed from person to person, reshared in offices, schools, homes, and public spaces across the nation. Yet while the internet celebrates, inside the studio the battle is far from finished. Trump isn't the type to let a moment like this slip quietly into the night. His next move will be louder, harsher, and more personal than ever before. But just as he prepares to strike back, reinforcements for Obama are already stepping forward. And they're not just words on a screen anymore. By the next morning, Washington feels like it's been shaken by a political earthquake. The clip from the town hall isn't just a viral moment anymore. It's a full-blown cultural flashpoint. Every cable show, every podcast, every breakfast table conversation seems locked on one question. Has Trump finally gone too far? Or has Obama reminded Americans why his calm demeanor once steadied the nation? At Union Station in D.C., commuters stream through with earbuds tuned to their favorite morning shows. On NPR, the host replays Obama's now famous line, maybe being real means respecting facts. The words echo in coffee shops and offices across the city. One congressional staffer, Kelly Stanton, shakes her head as she listens, texting her colleague. This clip is destroying us. Even some of our own people think Trump looked bad. On Capitol Hill, lawmakers from both parties are weighing in. Senator Mark Lum of Ohio tells reporters outside his office, look, I've disagreed with President Obama plenty, but if someone's going to challenge his education, they better bring receipts. Harvard doesn't hand out fake degrees. That's just common sense. His comments replay on C-SPAN within minutes. But the most striking responses come from the very people Obama mentioned the night before. That morning, Judge Linda Carver sits in her chambers in Cincinnati, her phone buzzing nonstop. She finally addresses the public with a short but devastating statement. I was a student in Barack Obama's constitutional law class. His lectures pushed me harder than any course I'd ever taken. I wouldn't be where I am today without his mentorship. To question his credentials is to question the foundation of my career. And I assure you both are very real. Within an hour, that statement leads every major headline. CNN runs it across their news ticker. MSNBC brings on analysts to dissect every word. Even Fox News has to acknowledge it, though some hosts try to spin it as elitist validation. The fact remains, Carver's reputation is beyond question, and her defense carries enormous weight. Not long after, Daniel Brooks, the Detroit civil rights attorney, posts a video from his modest office. The background shows a desk stacked with case files, a bookshelf leaning slightly to one side. He looks straight into the camera. I spent 3 years in Barack Obama's classroom. He didn't just teach us the law. He showed us what it meant to think critically about justice. If you want to call his degree fake, you're calling my education fake too. And I'm out here fighting cases every day that prove otherwise. That video spreads almost as fast as the original clip. Civil rights groups retweet it. Law professors repost it. Ordinary people comment. This is what receipts look like. In Washington, the impact is immediate. Legal scholars at Georgetown and Howard universities speak to the press. Professor Evelyn Marks, a constitutional law expert, tells PBS, "You can criticize Barack Obama's politics, but you can't erase his academic record. This is someone who edited the Harvard Law Review, who published respected articles, who mentored a generation of lawyers. Facts are stubborn things." Inside the White House briefing room, reporters grill Press Secretary James Mullery about Trump's accusations. Mullery shifts uncomfortably at the podium. The president is simply raising questions that many Americans have. The follow-ups come fast. Do you have evidence? Has anyone verified these claims? The lack of clear answers only fuels the narrative that Trump overreached. At coffee shops in Columbus and Madison, ordinary people debate between sips. "You don't have to love Obama," one man tells a friend, "but degrees aren't fake just because you say so. That's not how reality works." His friend chuckles. It's like arguing the sky isn't blue. Pointless. On social media, the tide shifts dramatically. Hashtag degree of truth transforms into something bigger. People post their own college diplomas, tagging professors and mentors with heartfelt stories. A mother in Tulsa posts a picture of her daughter holding a nursing certificate. Education is earned, not given. Thank you to every teacher who believed in her. Respect matters. Her post is shared over 200,000 times. By afternoon, talk shows are completely locked in. On The View, co-host Maria Delgado says bluntly, "Trump thought he was throwing a jab, but Obama turned it into a national reminder of why education and composure matter." That's the difference between insults and leadership. On late-night TV, comedians are already riffing. One quips, "Trump said Obama's degree was fake, so Obama introduced a federal judge who could probably throw Trump in jail." That's how you fact-check in real time. The studio audience roars with laughter. In Washington, aides whisper behind closed doors. Trump's allies fear the backlash. Some strategists warn this is a kind of viral moment that could linger for months, framing Trump as reckless and Obama as statesmanlike. Through it all, Obama hasn't raised his voice once. His students have spoken for him. His record has spoken for him. But Trump isn't about to retreat. He's preparing to go even harder. And his next words are about to reveal just how far he's willing to push this fight. By the time the broadcast hits its second hour, the studio no longer feels like a controlled political event. It's become a duel, one man throwing increasingly desperate jabs, the other parrying with surgical precision. The crowd is clearly leaning toward Obama, and Trump can feel his control slipping away. His face grows tight, his movements sharper, his voice louder and more strained. Trump leans into his microphone, raising his voice above the applause that just followed another calm rebuttal from Obama. "Barack, you're a phony. You've always been a phony. You put on this good act. Sure, you smile, you tell your little stories, but that's all it is, an act. The American people are tired of it. They want someone real, not someone who hides behind books and fake professors." The accusation hangs in the air like toxic smoke. Some supporters clap, grateful for the aggression, but others shift uneasily. A young woman in the fifth row, Kendra Lawson, covers her mouth and whispers to her boyfriend, "Did he just say fake professors? That's insane." Obama doesn't rush to respond. He lets the applause and groans fade completely. Then, with that slow, steady tone that's become his signature of the evening. Donald, the professors at Harvard weren't fake. They challenged me, just as I later challenged my own students. And if you think education is an act, then you've missed the point entirely. Knowledge isn't theater. It's work. Hard work. Applause surges again, echoing through the studio. Trump rolls his eyes, gesturing toward the audience as if to say they're all biased against him. You see? They eat it up. They love your little speeches. But speeches don't fix the border, Barack. Speeches don't lower gas prices. Speeches don't make America strong again. Obama leans forward slightly, his voice still perfectly level. Maybe not. But leadership does. Facts do. Truth does. You can't build solutions on lies, Donald. You can't inspire a country by tearing down its teachers, its judges, and its lawyers. That's not strength, that's weakness. The crowd roars. Allison Drake tries to interject, but Trump slams his hand on. Which one sounded more presidential? The room is unanimous, and it isn't Trump. Even late-night comedians pick up on the imbalance. One jokes. Obama gave a fireside chat. Trump gave a fire alarm. The audience roars with laughter and recognition. The irony becomes inescapable. And try to silence Obama, Trump has amplified his voice louder than ever. Every angry response, every furious tweet, every heated press conference only makes Obama's measured words seem more presidential by comparison. By the end of the week, the aftershocks are still being felt everywhere. Political analysts call it the sharpest contrast yet between the two men's approaches to leadership. In halls of Congress, lawmakers whisper about it in elevators and behind closed doors. On Sunday morning talk shows, analysts pull out polling data showing shifts in public opinion. Independents, that crucial group often turned off by partisan bickering, are responding positively to Obama's emphasis on unity and accountability. The cultural impact stretches far beyond politics. Churches across the Midwest weave Obama's words about listening and courage into their sermons. In San Antonio, a pastor tells his congregation, when a leader says no one, not even a president, should be afraid of accountability, that's not politics. That's morality. Teachers find themselves using the speech in classrooms. In Cleveland, an English teacher has her students analyze the tone and rhetoric. But the discussion quickly moves beyond grammar. A student raises his hand. It makes me wonder why we accept so much yelling in politics when we could have this instead. Even internationally, the story gets attention. In London, headlines read, Obama's voice echoes across America once more. The German magazine Der Spiegel writes, the United States still knows its conscience. Inside the White House, frustration grows. Trump's advisors try to pivot to other issues, trade, foreign policy, jobs, but the shadow of Obama's remarks looms large. Every Trump interview seems to circle back to the same subject, and his irritation only keeps the story alive. For Obama, the days after the speech are strangely quiet. He doesn't do follow-up interviews, doesn't hold rallies, doesn't release another statement. He lets the words stand on their own, and that silence becomes part of the message. Where Trump is constant and reactive, Obama is deliberate and measured. Back in that Akron diner where the story began, customers gather again over coffee. The same waitress mentioned she's replayed the speech 3 times at home. It's not that I agreed with every word, but I felt like somebody finally remembered how to talk to us like adults. Bill grins. That's all people want, to be spoken to with respect. The generational impact is clear, too. On campuses across the country, younger voters who have been too young to fully appreciate Obama's presidency are hearing him with fresh ears. A sophomore at Arizona State says to her friends, I wasn't really paying attention back then, but hearing him now, I get why people miss it. But perhaps the most powerful moment comes in the days that follow, when the deeper meaning of Obama's response becomes clear. This wasn't just a political speech. It was a reminder of something America had almost forgotten. In the quiet of his backyard a few days later, Obama sits with an old friend, sharing coffee and reflecting on what happened. The job of a leader, he says simply, isn't to silence critics. It's to hear them, to weigh their concerns, and to answer them with truth, even if the truth isn't what they want to hear. His friend later tells a reporter, He wasn't bragging when he said it. He wasn't even smiling. He just meant it. And that's why people still listen. The episode becomes a kind of national mirror, showing Americans two very different paths forward. One rooted in anger and division, the other in calm persistence and shared responsibility. The choice between them isn't just about politics. It's about the kind of society people want to live in. By week's end, a commentator on Philadelphia radio captures it perfectly. Obama didn't just answer Trump. He reminded Americans of themselves. And that's why it hit so hard. This story teaches us something crucial about leadership in difficult times. True strength isn't found in silencing others or demanding loyalty. It's found in listening carefully, speaking truth with calm resolve, and remembering that respect is the foundation of any healthy democracy. Words have power, the power to divide or unite, to tear down or build up, to create fear or inspire hope. But it's not just what we say that matters. It's how we say it, the tone we choose, the respect we show, the example we set. Obama's response to Trump's demand for silence became more than just a political moment. It became a reminder that leadership isn't about having the loudest voice or the angriest tweets. It's about having the courage to speak truth calmly, to listen even when it's difficult, and to remember that in a democracy, every voice deserves to be heard. If you take one thing from this story, let it be this. The way we speak to each other matters. The respect we show in our conversations, whether they're personal or political, shapes the kind of community we create together. When we choose calm over chaos, truth over manipulation, and respect over contempt, we don't just win arguments, we help build a better world. So as you think about this story and its lessons, ask yourself, what kind of voice do you want to be? What kind of conversations do you want to encourage? And how can you help create the kind of dialogue that lifts people up instead of tearing them down? Because real change doesn't start in Washington or in TV studios. It starts in everyday conversations between people who choose to listen, to speak with respect, and to remember that we're all part of something bigger than ourselves. That's the real power of Obama's response. Not that it put Trump in his place, but that it reminded all of us what we're capable of when we choose hope over fear, unity over division, and truth over silence. The conversation that shapes tomorrow starts with the words we choose today. Make them count. Constitutional law. He was issuing a warning, a reminder, a wake-up call to every American watching that our democracy isn't guaranteed. It has to be defended, protected, and upheld by people who understand that power without limits isn't freedom. It's the end of freedom. Think about the students who watch that clip in their civics classes, suddenly understanding why they're learning about checks and balances. Think about the parents who use that moment to explain to their children why rules matter, why nobody gets to be above the law, why America is different from the countries their grandparents fled. Think about the veterans who served this country, who took an oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, watching one president dismiss it as irrelevant while another reminded the nation why it's sacred. That's the real power of that night in Phoenix. Not the viral clips or the trending hashtags or the cable news debates. It's the conversations it started, the lessons it taught, the reminder it gave us all about the difference between leadership and authoritarianism. Because at the end of the day, this isn't really a story about Donald Trump or Barack Obama. It's a story about us, about what we expect from our leaders, what we demand from our democracy, and what we're willing to do to protect both. It's about understanding that the Constitution isn't a suggestion. It's not a guideline. It's not something that applies only when convenient. It's the foundation everything else is built on. And when that foundation starts to crack, when people in power start to ignore it, when citizens start to forget why it matters, that's when democracies die. But that's also when they can be saved. By people who remember, by people who care, by people who understand that freedom isn't free and democracy isn't automatic, and that sometimes, just sometimes, all it takes is one person with the courage to stand up and say, simply and clearly, that's not how this works. Obama could have attacked Trump personally that night. He could have mocked him, insulted him, turned the whole thing into a political food fight. Instead, he did something much more powerful. He educated. He clarified. He reminded an entire nation of the principles we're supposed to share, the values that are supposed to unite us, the rules that are supposed to govern us all. And in doing so, he showed us what real leadership looks like. Not the kind that demands obedience, but the kind that earns respect. Not the kind that breaks rules, but the kind that explains why rules matter. Not the kind that divides us, but the kind that reminds us of what we have in common. That's the lesson that will outlast all the headlines and viral moments and political theater. That democracy requires leaders who understand they're not rulers. That freedom demands people who know the difference between strength and abuse. That America needs citizens who remember that presidents aren't kings, and at the moment we forget that truth is the moment we lose everything that makes this country worth defending. So the next time you hear someone in power claim they can do whatever they want, remember that night in Phoenix. Remember Obama's calm voice cutting through the chaos. Remember the way he made complicated constitutional law sound like common sense. Remember how he turned a potential shouting match into a teaching moment. And remember that in a democracy, the most important voice isn't the one that shouts the loudest. It's the one that speaks the truth most clearly. The one that reminds us who we are, who we're supposed to be, and why that matters more than any individual ambition, or ego, or hunger for power. Because that's what that town hall was really about. Not politics, not partisanship, not even personalities. It was about principle, about the idea that in America, no one is above the law. No one gets to be king. And everyone, from the highest office to the humblest citizen, has a responsibility to defend the Constitution that protects us all. Presidents aren't kings. It's not just a catchphrase or a clever comeback or a moment of political theater. It's the most important lesson in American democracy. And it's a lesson we can never afford to forget. If this story moved you, if it reminded you why these principles matter, if it made you think about the kind of leadership you want to see in this country, then share it. Talk about it. Use it to start conversations about democracy, about accountability, about the responsibility we all have to protect the freedoms we've inherited. Because the story doesn't end with that town hall. It continues with each of us in the choices we make, the leaders we support, and the principles we're willing to defend. The Constitution isn't just a document in a museum. It's a living promise that depends on us to keep it alive. And that promise is simple. In America, the people rule. Not kings, not tyrants, not anyone who thinks they're above the law. Just us, all of us, together. That's the America Obama reminded us of that night. That's the America worth fighting for. And that's the America we must never stop defending, no matter how loud the voices get that tell us the rules don't matter anymore. Because they do matter. They're all that stand between democracy and darkness, between freedom and tyranny, between the country we are and the country we could lose if we ever forget the most important truth of all. Presidents aren't kings. And in America, they never will be.